Ray Dalio was born in an ordinary neighborhood, the son of a jazz musician and a housewife. He had no Wall Street connections. He didn't frequent elite dinners. And at school, nothing indicated that he would become one of the greatest investors in history. What Ray had was curiosity. While his friends were at the beach, he spent hours trying to understand why stocks were going up and down. At age 12, he bought his first stock, Northeast Airlines. He knew nothing about valuation or macroeconomics. He only heard a tip from a caddy on a golf course, bought cheap dot, and the action tripled. It was luck, but for Ray, it was magic. At that moment, he didn't just discover the market. He discovered an invisible game, where knowledge and behavior are worth more than appearance or inheritance. And that's when the obsession began. But obsession without method also leads to failure, and he would still have to fall badly before he understood how to truly win this game. Ray Dalio wasn't born rich. In fact, he barely had enough money to fund his own ideas. But inside him lived an unshakable conviction. If I understand how the world works, I can overcome any crisis. With this idea in mind, he founded Bridgewater in the living room of his house. No team, no investors, no Harvard MBA on the wall. Just him, a calculator, and a dream that sounded ridiculous to everyone around. I will create the most influential investment firm on the planet. Most of them laughed. Some called it arrogance, others of madness. But what no one saw, it's just that Ray didn't want to be the best in the market. He wanted to understand the system behind the market. He believed that behind every bubble, every collapse, every oscillation, there was a pattern. And if he found that pattern, I would never depend on luck again, or intuition. But while he was studying economic cycles, the bills arrived. The money was running out, and a miscalculation would ruin everything. In 1982, he bet big dot and lost. Ray Dalio was confident. He had spent months analyzing data, economic cycles, historical patterns. Everything indicated that a major crisis was about to happen. And for the first time, he was about to prove himself to the world. The system will collapse. It is inevitable. Based on this prediction, Ray bet against the market. He sold what he had, and he convinced his clients to do the same. Short, sell, stay, profit. It was the perfect plan. He just forgot one detail. The world didn't follow the plan. Instead of falling, the economy jumped, the market went up, and he went up. Every point on the graph was a knife stabbing into his pride. And in your pocket too. The Bridgewater sank. Ray had to lay off the few employees who were still with him. Canceled projects, contract terminations began to rain down. He lost customers, lost money and lost his own confidence. It was rock bottom. I was broke, and I had to ask my father for money. Imagine this. You build a company from scratch. Try to be brilliant. Make the boldest move of your life, and it ends in shame, silence, and an emotional debt to those who believed in you the most. But what did Ray do after this failure? Would forever change the way the world deals with risk. No paper, everything made sense. Ray analyzed decades-long economic cycles, interviewed economists, built models, made projections. Everything pointed to a crisis, a brutal fall, a global recession. He was so right that he bet everything. And then the unthinkable happened. The market went up, a point on the graph, then another. The bags exploded. The dollar strengthened. Jobs are back. The economy has recovered. And every upward movement, it was an internal fall within Ray. He wasn't just wrong. He was publicly wrong. In front of investors, clients, friends, in front of the world. It was as if I had yelled fire in a theater, and no one had seen smoke. The people who trusted him lost money, and they lost confidence. Ray didn't just lose financial capital, lost credibility, reputation, ego. And when everything fell apart, there was only one question left. How can someone so intelligent be so wrong? That question hurt, but she opened the door to the biggest success of his life. Everything fell apart. The office that once had movement, ideas, energy, was now silent. The empty tables, the chairs stacked, the phone silent. Ray Dalio was alone. The employees each received the same call. Sorry, I can't pay you anymore. People who believed in his dream, who left other jobs, who defended Bridgewater tooth and nail. Now he packed his bags in silence. The customers, they gradually disappeared. Some with anger, others with disappointment. Trust, which takes years to build. Broken weeks. What about reputation? That's cruel. Before, Ray was the young genius. Now, they called him arrogant, inconsequential, another one who thought he was bigger than the market and was swallowed by it. Back then, my company was just me, literally, and I didn't even have enough money to pay the bills. He no longer had a team. He no longer had prestige. I had no more reason to believe, but there was still something to miss, and it was precisely this pain which planted the seed of a mental revolution. Pause and imagine this. You build a dream from scratch, take a risk, make bold decisions, believe you will win, and when everything goes wrong, when the ground disappears, you see yourself, adult, broken, humiliated, asking for help from the man who created you. Dad, I'm stuck. I need a loan. Ray Dalio, the guy who thought he could predict the future of the global economy, failed to foresee his own failure. And now, it was there, in the living room of his father's house, the same place where he started dreaming, returning empty-handed, and the eyes full of shame. It wasn't just about money. It was about pride, about not being good enough, about failing in front of the people he most wanted to impress. But there, in that moment of total vulnerability, something unbelievable happened. His father didn't judge, it helped. And he said, "Son, maybe this is just part of the path." That sentence was the first spark, because at that bottom of the well, Ray discovered that he didn't have to appear invincible. He needed to learn not to break down again. And that's when what he needed most was born, a new system of thought. These were Ray Dalio's words years later, already a billionaire, applauded, revered by heads of state and global leaders. But when he looks back, it was not the loss of money, it was not the public error, not even the humiliation in the market. It was that silence. Alone. No direction, without purpose. I felt like a complete failure, not just in business, but as a man, as a leader, as a human being. The mind that once sought patterns, now I only saw chaos. For the first time, I doubted whether I was smart enough, if it was strong enough, whether it was worth continuing. He cried. Yes, Ray Dalio cried. It wasn't on camera. It was in the kitchen at home, with a notebook in hand and a question in mind. Where exactly did I go wrong? That question, simple and brutal, would mark the beginning of something new. Because at that moment, the worst of his life, Ray didn't look for someone to blame. He sought a system, and it was there, at the bottom of the well, that the first principle was born. Because in that abyss, where most would give up, Ray Dalio did something rare. He stayed, sat with the pain, and instead of running away, decided to learn from her. If I want to avoid this kind of failure in the future, I need to understand exactly what brought me here. He realized something that would change everything. The pain was a sign, not of failure, but of unfinished learning. And there, between tears and notes, Ray started writing. Not a business plan, not a new market strategy, but a list of principles, raw ideas extracted straight from the scar, rules that were born from error, methods born of shame, solutions that only exist when you face your own failure head-on. It was there that he understood. What brought me down wasn't the market, it was my ego. It was thinking that I knew enough. And then came the definitive insight. If I can't trust myself 100%, I need to trust a system that is smarter than my ego. This was the birth of what would transform Ray Dalio, of a bankrupt man, into one of the most respected investors in history. It wasn't luck. It wasn't a new, crazy investment. It wasn't a stroke of genius. It was mental discipline and a brutal commitment to the truth. That day, Ray realized that trusting only his own intuition, it was like sailing in the dark, blindfolded. I'm human, I make mistakes, but if I document my mistakes, I can learn faster than anyone else. He started writing everything down, every decision, every mistake, every lesson, turned failure patterns into mental algorithms, created a system of principles, objective records, deep reflection, radical debate of ideas, ego on the floor, truth first. No matter how smart I am, if my ego gets in the way, I'll break again. From this, the method of radical transparency and meritocracy of ideas was born, which would become the basis of Bridgewater, the fund that would manage more than $150 billion. But before becoming a billionaire, he became a student of his own pain. And that changed everything. If you've ever made a bad decision, or felt like you were gambling to high with your own life, so you know how it is, that feeling in your chest, as if the world was watching you, waiting for you to fail, the butterflies in your stomach before a big choice, regret after something goes wrong, the question that echoes in the mind, where did I get lost? You look around. It seems like everyone is winning, while you carries the weight of a mistake that seems to have set you back years. But let me tell you something, you are not alone. Not every billionaire started out winning. Not every genius gets it right the first time. And most of the people you admire today ever felt exactly how you feel now. What sets these people apart? It's not that they make fewer mistakes. It's just that they learn faster from their mistakes. And this video is here to remind you of that. Not as cheap self-help, but as a real map based on who has already fallen. It broke and rebuilt. If this has made sense to you so far, so like and subscribe, because what comes next could change the way you decide forever. Have you ever noticed that sometimes a single idea has the power to completely change the course of our lives? It doesn't have to be an expensive course, not even a famous mentor. Sometimes it's just a story that opens a new perspective, that makes you look at your mistake and see a starting point, not the end. This video might be just that for you, that trigger that makes you understand that error is not the enemy, risk is not the villain, and pain can be a wiser teacher than success. So like and subscribe now, not by algorithm, not out of vanity, but because this story, the true story of someone who failed, learned, and overcame, could be the missing key to your journey. And if you've made it this far, it's because you're much closer to the turn than you think. Ray Dalio created a system, but it was not an ordinary system. It wasn't based on cold spreadsheets or magic formulas from internet gurus. It was a system based on something that almost no one has the courage to face, the brutal truth. Ray understood that he couldn't just trust his own emotions. They fluctuate. They are affected by ego, fear, pride. So he decided to create a method of thinking, a decision model that was more reliable than the brain itself. And it all started with a question: what made me go wrong? And how can I ensure I never make the same mistake again? Thus was born what he called the principles. Every wrong decision became a documented learning experience. Each success, a replicable pattern. Every mistake, a warning for the future. He didn't just learn from pain. He coded the pain. He transformed suffering into wisdom, and wisdom in algorithm. Imagine if you could think like your smartest self, even on your worst days. That's what Ray created, a system of thought that eliminates the emotional chaos of decision-making and replaces it with clarity, logic, and reliable repetition. This system would make him a billionaire, but more than that, would make him free. Intuition is good until the moment she cheats on you. That's what Ray Dalio realized after making a big mistake, after breaking, after betting big, and losing everything. He realized that intuition is limited. It's emotional. It is influenced by fear, ego, and the desire to be right. If I keep making decisions based on what I feel, I will continue to be a hostage to luck or chaos. So Ray did something radical, took the self out of the equation. He began to map out decisions with surgical coldness. He created radical, almost brutal principles that governed his way of thinking. Truth is more important than being right. Pain is a sign of growth. Ideas should compete, not egos. Never make important decisions without first comparing them with data and other brilliant minds. These principles were not pretty. They were not inspiring. They were rigid, direct, uncomfortable. But they worked because they created a filter, a shield against impulsive decisions, a compass when everything seemed confusing. Ray didn't want to get lucky anymore. He wanted to create a process that would make him predictably successful. And that's what separates those who thrive from those who merely survive. Intuition is wrong. Principles, no. Ray Dalio saw it with his own eyes. Billion-dollar decisions being made out of pure pride. promising companies going under because someone didn't want to admit they were wrong. He understood that it is not the market that destroys businesses. It's the people, more precisely, people's ego that doesn't listen, ego that gets offended, ego that needs to be right, even when everything shows it is wrong. And along with the ego comes the emotion, the fear that paralyzes, the greed that blinds, the anger that explodes in meetings, the insecurity that prevents change. Ray realized that the real risk was not on the stock exchange. It was on the minds of the leaders. That's when he decided, if I want to create a resilient company, I need to remove ego from the equation. I need to create an environment where truth comes before comfort. This was the birth of a radically different culture, where everyone from the intern to the CEO could question any decision, where it didn't matter who spoke, but what was said, and where the error was not punished, was documented, analyzed, and transformed into principle. Because when you take the emotion out of the decision and put a system in place, you don't just avoid failure, you build anti-fragility. After breaking down, losing everything, and rebuilding your own mind, Ray Dalio understood that he could no longer live based on impulsive decisions. Something clear was needed, rigid, unbreakable. So he made a rule, simple, direct, but profoundly revolutionary. Don't trust yourself, trust the system. This sentence seems absurd, right? After all, the world keeps saying the opposite. Trust your instincts, follow your intuition. You know what's best for you. But Ray learned the hard way. Intuition lies. The ego sabotages. Emotion betrays. I am not my best advisor when I am afraid. Not even when I am overconfident. I am trustworthy when I follow tested principles. This rule became the basis of his life. It was on the office wall, in company reports, in dialogues with your team. No matter how experienced someone was, everyone was invited, almost forced, to follow the system above one's own instinct. Because truth, when placed before the ego, creates better decisions, and better decisions build empires. This sentence seems counterintuitive. It even sounds offensive, right? What do you mean I don't trust myself? But Ray Dalio has learned the hard way that blindly trusting yourself is the quickest shortcut to making disastrous decisions. We are terrible at noticing our own biases. Our brain deceives us all the time. What we feel is not necessarily what is real. He understood that the biggest mistakes came from moments when he was absolutely convinced, and that many times, confidence was just ego disguised as clarity. So he created a new paradigm. Instead of relying on momentary opinions, he started relying on data. Instead of following emotion, he followed principles. And instead of trying to be a lone genius, he created a collaborative, decision-making system. My system doesn't depend on me having a good day. It works even when I'm feeling unwell, tired, irritated, because it's bigger than me. Don't trust yourself. Trust the system. It's not about denying your intuition. It's about creating a set of tested, organized, revisited decisions that guide you when your mind wants to sabotage you. This phrase became Bridgewater's mantra, a constant reminder that in times of pressure, whoever survives is not the smartest. It is he who has mental structure. After the fall, Ray Dalio did what few do. He didn't try to forget his mistakes. He studied them. Every wrong decision became an autopsy. He wanted to know exactly where the logic failed, which emotion got in the way, and how to prevent it from happening again. He started to assemble patterns, map reactions, record causes and consequences. If I can understand how I think, then I can build a model to think better. That's when things got almost scientific. Ray began to turn these patterns into codes, created a behavior algorithm. Yes, software that simulates the human mind, but without the errors of the human mind. This system crossed history of previous decisions, financial results, psychological profile, feedback from other team members, macroeconomic data, and with that, he began to predict the unpredictable, predicted falls, avoided losses, reduced risks, and of course, it increased profits. But more than making money, Ray created something much more valuable, a system of thought, a reliable decision model, and automated emotional intelligence. Today, this algorithm is used by one of the largest fund managers in the world. But it was born from a notebook, a bankruptcy, and a mind that refused to repeat the same mistake. Today, his investment fund, Bridgewater, manages more than $150 billion. Yes, the same man who one day had to ask his own father for money. Today, he is the founder of one of the largest financial empires on the planet. Bridgewater Associates, Ray Dalio's fund. It's not just big. She is legendary. With over $150 billion under management, she became a global reference in performance, discipline, and thought. But what's impressive isn't just the size. It's the way Bridgewater operates. No important decision is made without data. All meetings are recorded for analysis and learning, and any employee, regardless of position, can criticize any idea, including Ray's own. It is an environment where truth is valued more than comfort, where principles are more important than hierarchies, and where each success or failure becomes new data for the system. I didn't build a fund to be the biggest in the world. I built it to be the most sensible, and that's exactly what makes Bridgewater grow, even when the market sinks, even when everyone else freaks out, even when intuition screams. Because it doesn't depend on emotion, it depends on the structure. And this structure was born out of bankruptcy, from an error, and of a man who had the courage to transform pain in wisdom. Because there are people who earn millions, but still feels poor inside, trapped in fear, hostage to the ego. With impulsive decisions and sleepless nights, Ray Dalio understood that true value. It's not in what you accumulate, it's in how you think. He didn't just rebuild a company, he rebuilt his own mind. He learned to see mistakes as part of the process, pain as a sign of growth, conflict as a path to clarity. Ray's greatest wealth is not his assets. It is the fact that he created a mental system that protects you from yourself, a model where he thinks calmly amidst chaos, where decisions are not born of anxiety, but of solid principles, where your head stays in place, even when the world seems to be falling apart. This is real freedom, because making money is good. But knowing how not to lose it, knowing how not to get lost in the process, is what turns an ordinary winner in a truly legendary mind. Ray Dalio's mind was not shaped by success. It was honed by failure. Ray understood that the biggest failures make the best systems, and that if you want to thrive, you have to fall in love with your mistakes. Most people run away from error. He is ashamed. Hide. Try to forget. Ray did the opposite. He embraced the mistake, studied the error, documented the error, because he realized something that few have the courage to admit. Error is valuable information, and if you have humility, it gives you exactly what you need to evolve. He stopped seeing failures as signs of inability, and he began to see them as shortcuts to better systems. Every time something went wrong, he did not punish himself. He asked, "What is this trying to show me?" And that's how he built a mental empire, based not on glorious successes, but in well-processed defeats. Do you want to prosper? So you need to stop resisting error and start falling in love with him. Because mistakes show where you are blind, show what you don't understand yet, shows the exact point where your system needs to evolve. That's what Ray did, and that's what the great ones do. They do not defend themselves from error. They invite error to the table, and they say, "Teach me, I'm listening." One of its most controversial principles, amidst dozens of rules, methods, and philosophies that Ray Dalio created, one of them has always divided opinions. Some call it genius, others cruel, but everyone agrees on one thing. It works. The principle says, pain plus reflection equals progress. Yes. Ray believes that pain is necessary, not as punishment, but as raw material for evolution. Most people try to avoid pain at all costs. Not him. He sees pain as feedback from the universe, as a warning that something needs to be adjusted. Did you feel ashamed? There is something in the ego that needs to be revised. Were you scared? There's a limiting belief hidden there. Did you feel frustrated? Perhaps your expectations are misaligned with reality. If you don't reflect on pain, you repeat it. So Ray made a habit of stopping whenever something hurt, not to complain, but to analyze, understand, evolve. He taught this principle within Bridgewater and made it a rule of organizational culture. If it hurt, write it down. If it failed, investigate. And if it hurts again, don't blame the world. Blame the system you haven't updated yet. This is one of the secrets behind his success. Transform every pain into leverage, every flaw in formula, every stumble in calculated progress. If this story made you rethink how you deal with your failures, the next video will show you how another billionaire overcame bankruptcy 3 times before making history. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to be honest with yourself and have the courage to look at mistakes with the eyes of someone who wants to grow. Ray Dalio's story isn't just about billions. It's about mindset, about reconstruction, about taking on your own pain and transforming it into a system. And if that made sense to you, then you are on the right track, because in the next video, you'll meet someone who's gone broke 3 times. Yes, 3 times. And yet, he made history. This journey is for those who don't give up, for those who are willing to think differently, for those who understand that failure is not the end. It's just the beginning of the right system. Click on the next video and follow us, because here you are not alone. And with each story, we become stronger, smarter, and more prepared to build our own empire. Click here and continue the journey, because if you're seeing this, it's because you're already on the right path. You're not alone. The community that thinks like you is here, and the best is yet to come. The truth is that most people give up halfway, change direction, surrender to doubt, go back to the same place as always. But you stayed until here. You heard the pain, got the error, and he saw the power that lies behind a prepared mind. This already puts you among the few who are truly ready to prosper, and it connects you with a community that also thinks the same way. Here, we don't romanticize failure. We transform it into a system. Here, we don't look for shortcuts. We build foundations. Here, we believe that financial freedom starts with mental freedom.